welcome back to the channel. So lately, as you can tell, my content has been geared more towards my Ram. I've been doing a lot of stuff for that lately, but today it's going to be about the Charger. And I am going to show you guys how to change out the rear diff fluid. This is a relatively simple thing to do, and it's something that I feel like it's overlooked. It's a really good thing to do. These things get their ass kicked, and it's something that I probably should have done a lot sooner. I sort of dropped the ball on it. I really wanted to do it when my car had like 15 to 2,000 miles. It's got about 8,000 on it now. So if you guys have, Hellcats, 392s, even RTs, and you're under that 2,000 mark, I would heavily consider changing out your gear oil. I don't think there's any specific break-in period, but just the fact that they're new gears, new clutches and stuff like that, I just think it's a good idea to get that old original fluid out of there and get some fresh stuff in there. As far as performance and stuff, I'm not doing this because I feel like there's a problem, but I did notice over the last year, I feel like the diff is a little bit noisy. It's making a little bit of a whine, and that is just a characteristic of these cars. And LSD rear ends in general, they tend to be a little bit more noisy, a little bit more of a whine, but I'm hoping that changing out the fluid will sort of help that quiet it down a little bit. And even if it doesn't, at least there's good new fluid in the diff. Like I said, they get their ass kicked. So something that should be done more often than not. It's not something that I would do every 4,000 miles, every oil change. I'm probably going to go every 8 to 10,000 miles on this, and that even might be excessive, but it's good to have new fluid in there. Simple, relatively inexpensive. So with all that out of the way, I want to talk about the fluid. So all the part numbers will be linked down below. So this is the friction modifier. This is the fluid that the dealer sold me by VIN, and they said no friction modifier needs to be added to this. Don't add it. I bought it anyway. So really quick, there was a TSB for the 15s and 16s. There was a problem with the rear ends, I guess. I will post the pictures to the TSB right there so you can see them. So that pertained to the 15s and 16s. They were using a different rear diff fluid, a different part number that did not have the friction modifier in it, and they were having problems. So in a nutshell, that TSB says to drain the diff, fill it with this stuff right here, this part number, and there's no mention of adding friction modifier, which tells me you don't add it. If it's not in the TSB specifically saying add this friction modifier with this part number, that tells me you don't add it. So do what you want, guys. So right here it says rear axle lubricant for ZF ELSD. That also tells me, it says LSD right there, that also tells me it's probably got friction modifier in it. Dealership says it does too. So I may, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I may just fill the diff without adding some of this, driving it and seeing how it is. If I feel like it's excessively noisy, noisier than before, I might add a splash of this. But too much friction modifier is not good. So I may just, like I said, fill it with just this stuff right here, drive it, see how it is, see how it performs, do some figure eights, and if I feel like it's kind of hanging up, making some excessive noise, stuff like that, I might add a splash of this. So all in all, stuff's a little bit on the pricey side. It's about $60 a quart. My dealer sold it to me for about $90 for both, so they hooked me up a little bit there. So bit of a sticker shock, but it's something that is important to do, and in the grand scheme of things is relatively inexpensive. So with all that out of the way, like I said, part numbers for everything will be down below. One last thing I want to go over is tools needed. So obviously your fluid there, and then a torque wrench. If you don't have one, and when tight is tight, you don't need a torque wrench, but I have a torque wrench, so I'm going to use it. You're going to want to torque the drain and fill plugs to I think 36 foot-pounds or 26. One of the two. I got to look it up again, I forgot. So a torque wrench, a ratchet, and a number 8 hex bit for the drain and fill plugs, and then a fluid transfer pump, which I don't have here. It's in the shed. It's full of gear oil from previous times, but you get one of those at your local auto parts store. Harbor Freight. You can get them on Amazon. So basically, ratchet, torque wrench, number 8 hex bit, and a fluid transfer pump. So with all that out of the way, we're gonna hop down, drain it, fill it, and I will show you guys how simple this is to do.
All right, guys, so here we are. This is going to be your fill plug up here, this top one, and this is your drain plug. Make sure before you crack the drain plug that you crack the fill plug first, because the last thing you want to do is drain it and something happen to the fill plug, strip it, or just can't get it off for whatever reason. You'll have a bad day because you won't be able to refill it. So make sure that you crack your fill plug before you drain it. So I'm going to go ahead and crack the fill plug and the drain plug. Fill plug first, and hopefully that will allow fluid to drain down more, easier. And another thing, real quick, if your car's been sitting a while, it's probably a good idea to take it for a quick drive to get that diff fluid warmed up a little bit so it drains quicker. It's not as thick. I obviously have the AFE exhaust, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to get to these two plugs, as you can tell, because it's got the H pipe at the back here. So your car is probably not going to have this H pipe in the middle here, so you're going to have a straight shot. I'm going to have to work around it, which is not a big deal. So we're going to go ahead and crack the plugs. So not too tight. And we'll go ahead with the drain plug. Slide our pan under here. Sorry if that's sort of blocking everything. Just slid the pan under here, and I am undoing the drain plug right now. Okay. Make sure you wear gloves too, because this stuff's kind of gross. It's actually really gross. Kind of show you the fluid. It's not too bad looking. It's a little dark, but definitely good to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the car down because I do have it jacked up on one side just so I can get to the plugs easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the car down and let it drain out more, and then we'll go ahead and fill it up. Alrighty, now that it is all drained, I let it sit for about 10 minutes. We'll go ahead and put the fill plug back in that I just lost in the bucket. This fluid actually is nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was expecting it to be a lot darker, nastier looking, but it's actually not. So go ahead and put your drain plug back on, and then we'll go ahead and fill it up. And then I got my torque wrench set to 26 foot-pounds, so we'll go ahead and torque that drain plug. There we go. Doesn't take much. And now we'll go ahead and fill it.
So as far as filling goes, it's super simple to fill. You basically fill it till it overflows or starts pouring out of the fill hole, and that's good. So I'm going to use this fluid transfer pump here. I'm going to suck it out of the bottle into this pump, and then I'm going to pump it into the diff. Looks like a pee sample. And I am just going to keep doing this until it spills out of the fill.
So, like I said, mine's going to be a bit more of a pain because we got this H pipe in the way. And so I'm just going to keep filling this until it spills out of there. Put the fill plug back in, torque the fill plug, and take it for a drive. Make sure everything's good. Do some figure eights in an empty parking lot. Get that LSD working and get that new fluid working into the diff. And then I will report back and let you guys know if there is a difference as far as sound, and if I feel like I need to add some friction modifier.
All right, guys, so I just got back from a drive, did some figure eights, stuff like that. Everything sounds really good. The whining that I had before, I'm going to say is about half as loud as it was before, so it definitely did something. And I did not add the friction modifier, and from that drive and doing some figure eights, nothing is telling me that I need to add that. So I wouldn't add that. Of course, I didn't go very long, so only time will tell if I do need it. But from that drive, I didn't need it, and it definitely improved the whining. Like I said, it's about half as loud as it was before, so it definitely did something, and I feel like if I did need the friction modifier, I would know right away that I needed it. So keep that in mind. If you want, buy a bottle. It's really cheap. I think it's like $8 for that little 4-ounce bottle. So I would buy it anyway, just in case your scenario is different than mine. But I would not add it initially. So like I said, this is something that I highly recommend anybody do. Those differentials get their ass kicked, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's about $100 for 2 quarts. I used a full quart and a splash of a second quart, so it definitely took a full quart. And like I said, $100 for the first time you do it, but after that, you're only going to have to buy 1 quart. Obviously, you'll have a second full quart, so it's going to be inexpensive for the next few times that you change it. So after the first time, it's half the price, and a full quart will last you forever. A second full quart will last you forever, because like I said, I barely used a quarter of the second quart, so that's going to last forever. So guys, hopefully you find this video helpful, and it is something I recommend you do. It's super simple, and it will keep your differential happy for a long time, hopefully. So with all that, guys, thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one.